to take a comfortable seat in perhaps Sukhasana. I'm in Sukhasana, but as you choose, just a way of sitting that's comfortable to you, even on a chair if you need to, or on a block or a cushion. And then just closing the eyes. And taking a falling out breath, so a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just becoming conscious of your sitting bones in contact with the mat or with a block or cushion or even with a chair. An awareness of your hands resting somewhere on your legs. And really feeling into your hands, so feeling the sensation of your hands. And just giving a little bit more space to your elbow joints as you allow more of your upper arm bones to settle a little deeper back in your shoulder joints. Just softening around your collarbones and relaxing a little bit more through your pelvis. Relaxing those of you sitting in a cross-legged position, the outer thighs, so between the outer knee and the outer hip. Noticing your feet, just becoming attentive to the feet. As you become attentive to your body in its entirety, noticing any particular sensations or aches or pains. And then noticing your breath. And just beginning to deepen into your breath. Perhaps engaging Ujjayi breath if you're familiar with that particular technique, creating that audible sound to the breath. And if you can, settling into the directional breath. So a sense of expanding into your lungs, into rib cage, and then continuing that expansion, working with your diaphragm down towards your navel center. And then a gentle contraction at the navel center as you begin to release through the diaphragm and all the way up through your intercostal muscles, releasing from the nose if you can. So filling from top to bottom and emptying from bottom to top. Noticing the quality of your breath, steadiness of breath, expanding from heart center down to navel center. And exhaling from navel center back up to heart center. Last couple of rounds of breath. And once you finish your next exhalation, just letting go of this technique. Just noticing how you're feeling, what's happening for you, where your awareness is. So we'll bring the awareness back to the breath, inviting you to stay as conscious of your breath as possible as we begin to move the body. Opening your eyes if you feel to open your eyes. Otherwise you might just keep them closed. And maybe if you can now, just changing the cross of your ankles so that we might all orientate towards Sukhasana, if we're able to. If not, maybe sit with your legs out like this instead. But let's just settle into some hip circles from here. So we're going to inhale from left knee around to right, and exhaling from right around to left. So inhaling left around to right, and exhaling right around to left. I don't know if it's helpful for you or not, but I find it helpful to imagine there's a sacred lake, actually, interestingly, in my pelvis. This area of the body, Shavasana, is represented by the element of water. It really likes movement, this area. It's a sacred place. So I like to imagine it as a sacred lake that I'm circumnavigating, and here we are invoking the power then in the clockwise direction, at least in the northern hemisphere. It's the direction of increase. Sometimes feel like you're just kind of, stirring up the energy a little bit. Obviously if you feel any discomfort, just stop. But we'll just balance it off a little bit by going in the opposite direction if that feels okay to you. So following an exhalation, perhaps just inhaling from right to left, and then you can exhale from left to right. Following your next exhalation, just returning to the starting position. Closing the eyes if they're not already closed, and just feeling into your body. So just notice you might feel a shift around your pelvis. You might feel it further up your spine or further up your body generally. Or you might keep your eyes closed as we change the cross of the ankles again back to our natural cross. And then just really feeling into the kind of roundness of your pelvis, noticing the roundness of your rib cage as well. So just finding your armpits. Again, just that sense of the upper arm bones going back a little bit in the shoulder joints, just making them round to play service. And then maybe just bringing your hands away from your legs. And just orientating awareness to your belly, and from your belly, take a breath in, but then from your belly, turning chest towards the right side of the room. And then exhaling, releasing back to the center, and then you can take an inhalation here. And exhaling, you're turning all the way towards the left. Coming back to the center, inhaling, you're turning all the way to the right. And exhaling, and just carrying on. Sometimes you might want to go a bit slower with the movement, so you need to just keep breathing. See what happens, but just really feeling into the movement through your belly. If you find it tricky having your hands up in the air like this, sometimes we become quite rigid, then you can of course take your hands down. Just be mindful not to kind of pull with your hands. So you're really exploring movement through your belly. You'll find that your head kind of takes over, or at least I find that, and I've kind of looked back. It's not that it's a bad thing to look back, But really we're just trying to notice more of the movement through the belly at the moment. And just notice how the legs get involved, how we might start pushing up away from the earth. And the breath, just coming back to the breath. And then just finish by exhaling or releasing, twisting then to your left, coming back to the centre. And then from there, pausing again, just to feel into your belly now, just noticing any sensation around the belly. Okay, and then from there, we're going to bring ourselves all the way over onto hands and knees. Okay, and just align your wrist joints approximately 30 centimetres or so in front of your knee joints, and just find a soft touch on the earth. You're not aggressively spreading the fingers apart, just bending your elbows as if you were going to bring them back towards your thighs. Hopefully you can see that's difficult to angle the camera. And just find space even in the elbows, and then just orientate your upper arm bones into your shoulders. Find rounder shoulders, free your shoulder blades. Can you glide them on your back? Come onto the tops of your toes and find the roundness of your heels here and the sort of broadness of your sacrum. And maybe the weight comes back a little bit as you take a breath in, elbows starting to straighten without pulling or pushing, and just slowly starting to open your knee joints. So not pushing your sitting bones up, or your buttocks for that matter, but just finding more spaciousness within the knee joints as you come into Animakasvanasana. And finding the back of your skull, letting that be really round and having a little bit of weight on your chin as you might look more towards your navel centre. And just notice how this feels through the heart space. Finding the knees, just trying to release a little bit in the space below the kneecaps and above the kneecaps. So not lifting up through the knees, staying with your breath, bringing the knees down if it gets too strong for you. Okay, and then all of us, we're going to come down on an exhalation. Just bend if you can simultaneously into your elbows and your knees. As you bring your knees down, probably onto the mat before the elbows do, depending on how strong you are. And then you can take the tops of your feet onto the mat for a moment. We're going to bring the forearms down onto the mat now. Okay, so maybe the forearms or the elbows, I should say, a couple of centimetres ahead of the knee joints. Hands and elbows, maybe if they can be about shoulder distance apart, the shoulders forward over the hands. Maybe come up onto your toes again. And just finding a softness through your sacrum. Finding a little bit of weight through your forearms. Keep the sense of spaciousness through the elbows. Again, find the back of the skull. And then let's take a breath in again, and the knees coming up away from the mat, possibly. And just noticing how that feels. If it's too strong, come immediately back down onto the mat. But otherwise, just having a feel into it, not pushing your shoulders back or lifting them up. Finding that space between your shoulder blades. And then on an exhalation, popping your knees down onto the mat. Tops of the shins or the shin bones then on the mat. Find the roundness of the pelvis and just directing the pelvis back in space as you continue to breathe. So just feeling as if you're almost taking the pelvis back towards the wall behind you. I mean, it will go down in the process, but not so it's just going down. And then you might take your elbows out, rest your forehead on the mat or rest your forehead on your hands. If this isn't comfortable, you can of course lie on your tummy. And just breathe, just taking a few breaths here in Balasana. And then we'll take a breath in, we'll find the mat with the hands. We'll come up onto the shins, we're going to tuck the toes under now. We'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out, starting to find your feet as you walk your hands back, and we'll come into Uttanasana.
So again, not lifting the sitting bones or the buttocks up, but just coming through the knees, so you find the roundness of your heels, lifting through your inner and outer arches. Really finding the roundness of your hips as well. Your hands might stay on the mat, they might not be able to. You might need to bring them onto your legs. You might need to have your knees bent considerably, depending on how it feels for you. Drishti, maybe finding more of your belly button with your eyes. And just noticing your breath. So have a sense of cobra almost here, in so much as trying not to round into your upper back. So keep the shoulder blades as free as possible. Finding spacious elbows again. Breath steady. Noticing your heels, noticing tightness possibly in the knee joints as well. So really noticing your kneecaps. Steady breath. Okay, and then from here, let's now all of us continue breathing, bending into your knees. And we'll come through chair pose, okay, so Utkatasana. So imagining that you're about to sit in a chair, hands can come up to shoulder height. Try not to, tuck under through the tailbone. Draw the arm bones back into the shoulder joints. Give a little bit of weight through your pelvis. And then we'll take a breath in and breathe out and start to straighten the legs, coming all the way up to stand in Tadasana. Eyes may be focused on a spot ahead, or you can even close your eyes and just feel into your body, feeling the feet on the earth, allowing there to be weight through the pelvis, finding the roundness of the back of your skull, the roundness of your shoulders. And if you have closed the eyes, maybe opening them now, we'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out, step your right foot forward. No more than a leg distance would be my suggestion. Turn your left heel in. Maybe come up onto the ball of both toes and kind of find the roundness of your heels and let them both simultaneously settle down onto the mat. Left hip can come around, or at least left thigh bone can come around in the left hip. Hands together at the heart. Just taking the elbows back a little bit, upper arm bones up and back a little bit. Pelvis rests down, so Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. Take a breath in here, and as you breathe out, releasing your hands, just slowly opening into your right leg without locking the knee joint. Keep bringing the left thigh bone around. Hands can go back behind you with the palms facing one another, but sort of take the upper arm bones forward so you give yourself rounder shoulders. Just really noticing the length of the upper arm bones. And then if you can, from there, from the elbow joints, just turn or move the hands towards one another, and maybe you just hold one wrist, one hand, if you see what I mean. So one hand holds one wrist for now. But if you've got the capacity, keeping the arm bones coming forward, the roundness of the shoulders from the elbow joints, you might then start to bring, and the wrist joints actually, the palms of the hands together in reverse prayer position. And then really finding the roundness of your hips, taking a breath in and breathing out, and on you go as your torso kind of settles into the space ahead of it. So again, trying to resist the temptation to lift the sitting bones and the buttocks, but really noticing the roundness of your hips, and keeping the spine as at ease as possible, noticing both of your knee joints, trying not to lock the knee joints or press through them. So Parsvottanasana, intense forward leg stretch, just pausing obviously wherever you need to, and breathing.
next inhalation, really feeling into your feet, bringing yourself or your torso halfway up. Still the roundness of the back of the skull, keeping your hands as they are for now if that's okay. If not, just straighten the arms behind you like this. Now let's see if we can bend into the right knee. Come onto your left toes, bring your torso forward, go down, or have a sense of going down through your right foot, so your left foot almost just floats up in the air. And just pausing here in Virabhadrasana 3. So in theory, the lifted leg feels quite light. There's a sense of really rooting down through your right foot. Breathing. Okay, and then we'll take a breath in. And as you breathe out, stepping the left foot back, coming up from here. We'll take another breath in and breathe out, stepping back into Tadasana. And just noticing how that feels. Noticing your breath, noticing right side of body compared to the left. Okay, and then opening the eyes if they're closed. We'll take a breath in, the left foot coming up now. Exhale the left foot forward. Again, the right heel can spin towards the mat. But that sense of bringing or turning the right thigh bone. And again, you might come up onto the ball of the toes, sort of like have that sort of playfulness, roundness of heels, and then letting the feet rest down to the mat. Okay, right hip coming forward, left going back. And then the hands together in front of the heart again in Namaskar Mudra, so the thumbs may be resting to your sternum. Elbows, just give them a little bit of space, give the upper arm bones a little bit of lift, just like a tiny bit, just free your shoulder blades a little bit, your armpits, and find the breath. Releasing, following your next exhalation, just starting to open into your left leg, releasing the hands down. The same thing as we did on the other side, where we almost sway the hands back, but bring the upper arm bones forward, so you've got these nice round shoulders. And then from the elbow joints, you turn your hands to face one another, and maybe the opposite hand takes hold of the opposite wrist joint this time. Or those of you that can, keep bringing the upper arm bones forward, and then you can turn or try through your elbows and wrist joints to bring the hands together. And then finding still the roundness of the heels, the roundness of the hips. You're going to take a breath in, and as you breathe out, folding over your left leg, but in such a way that you kind of don't just reduce this left leg to being a hinge joint or the left hip. So keep a broadness through your sacrum, a sense of really, I don't know if the word is grounding, rooting down through the feet without pushing down, so resting through them. Try not to lift the sitting bones or the buttocks. It's like a waterfall almost, pouring your spine, pouring over your left leg, and orientating the gaze perhaps up towards your navel centre. And just noticing the knee joints, so trying not to push through the knee joints, like you're not losing the kneecaps within the knee joints, but noticing the tension within the knee joints themselves. Okay, and then with the breath, inhaling, beginning to come all the way up. No, it's not all the way up actually, come halfway up. With the torso, bend into your left knee, so there's a sense of really going down through the left knee. Come onto your right toes, bring your torso forward in space. Be mindful of flaring your front ribs, and as you rest down through your left foot, so it might be, and as you find more of your left knee joint, your right foot might just float up in the air. So allowing that, so there's ease through the spine, there's kind of fluidity through the body. You know, the more you can rest down, the more you kind of come up. So breathing, Virabhadrasana 3, quite a strengthening pose, calming pose. We'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out, step back with your right foot,
back into Virabhadrasana 1, and then you can release from there, hands, and step your left foot back into Tadasana, mountain pose, and just maybe closing the eyes here, feeling into the body. Okay, then we'll open the eyes. Just bring yourself forward on your mats, more so towards the front of your mat. Turning the toes out possibly, and just coming down through Malasana if you can, so taking a breath, and as you breathe out, really feeling the thigh bones deep in your hip joints. If you need to just bring yourself straight down to sit, then do. Otherwise maybe you can pause here, just again sort of really finding your feet and that sense of the thigh bones resting in the hip joints. Hands might come together, allowing more of the spine to almost settle itself deeper in the back body. Roundness of the back of your skull. Lovely. And then you can take a breath in here, and as you breathe out, bring yourself down to sit. Feet on the mat. Okay. And then from here, again, maybe your hands come to your shins. And you can just use that as support for a moment, just finding more of your elbow joints. And almost again, letting the spine go deeper into your back body, finding the roundness of the back of your skull, but weighting that through your chin as well. So a little bit of weight in the chin. And then take one hand back and then the other hand back. This sense of the upper arm bones coming forward again, round shoulders. And then see how you do with this. You're going to start to bend into your elbows without pulling the shoulders back. So you're going to really find the length of your upper arm bones. And just one at a time or simultaneously bringing your forearms down onto the mat. And just feeling the feet on the mats. And then if it feels like maybe your buttocks need to be a little bit closer to your heels, shuffling the buttocks towards the heels. And then from there, slowly, arms can go forward as you bring the back of your head down onto the mat. So then from your knee joints, resting down through your feet, really feeling the feet on the earth, resting down. Imagining, if you can, that like where your thighs greet your torso, they're almost connected, if you can imagine it, by material like lace or something, I don't know. And just have a sense of that when we come up into bridge pose, that you don't want to rip that material. Now really finding, again, the upper arms and just rounding into your shoulders. Imagine your elbows are resting in sand and just make little indentations with them. The same with your palms actually. And then from your feet, so let the movement come from your feet, take a breath in, and as you breathe out, pelvis and back coming up away from the mat. Being mindful not to activate, not to clench the buttocks, so really coming through your feet, using your bones as much as anything, so really connecting through the joints. And breathing. Nice shoulders, roundness back of skull, open heart, armpits, noticing them. Really finding the support through the feet. It's 2-foot support, otherwise known as. And then on an exhalation, releasing your pelvis back down onto the mat. And then possibly as you inhale, the right knee coming in towards your right side of chest. And then if you've got the flexibility to take your right arm down the inside of the right leg and take hold of the baby toe side of the right foot, or the right big toe with your index finger or middle finger, then do that. If not, you can use a strap or a scarf or just nothing. Because what we're going to do here, and just keep on the back of your pelvis as much as possible, really feel the right thigh bone deep in the right hip. You're going to keep feeding it in as you take a breath in and a breath out. And again, just opening through your knee joint. Okay, so a real sense of not pushing through the knee joint, but just opening into the knee joint. And then your left leg might like to rest itself down onto the mat. Again, without kind of flexing into the foot, so you're attentive through the feet. They're awake, but they're not being trained to do one thing or another. Okay, and if your leg is just like this, if this is better, just having it up in the air, you might even have to have it bent, then so be it, it's fine. But there's an intention of the foot going up. Okay, and there's a sense of really taking that thigh bone deeper almost into the hip joint as if it's really welcomed. And the same, the left thigh bone descending down in the left hip joint. Okay, and then we'll take a breath in from here, Supta Panangustasana, and as you exhale, bending into your right knee and just letting your right foot find the earth. And then you can use maybe an inhalation to gather the left knee in towards the left side of your chest. And then if you can, you might take your left arm down the inside of your left foot, take hold of the baby toe side of your left foot, or your index finger, middle finger to the big toe. Again, really settling the thigh bone deep in the hip. It's a ball and socket joint, remember. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, exploring opening through your left leg. And you might notice, because I always notice, one side might be tighter than the other. You know, the right side of the body is representative of the masculine and the left of the feminine, for example. Also the right, the future, and the left, the past. I mean, this posture, Supta Panangustasana, is brilliant for grounding, actually. It's often used to help people. So if you suffer with insomnia, for example, practicing this posture before bed can be really helpful. So just breathing. Okay, and then we're going to release on an exhalation. So we'll take a breath in. And as you breathe out, bending into your left knee, so your left foot finds the mat. And then you might inhale, bend your right knee, exhale the right foot onto the mat. Stay like this, or you might just inhale both knees in towards the chest, Panangustasana, the wind relieving posture. Amazing if you have any kind of digestive disorder, especially excess wind or constipation, bad lower back. So just feel the back on the earth. And then maybe we might lift both feet simultaneously. We'll take a breath in, and as you breathe out, let the feet take the legs up, okay? So thigh bones keep descending down into the hip joints, but the feet kind of take the shins, the knees, the ankles up in space. So the feet are attentive to the air, can feel the air. And noticing how that feels, just to invert the legs. And then we'll take a breath in. Imagine you've actually got the knees over a bar, like you're going to wrap the knees over a bar, like a monkey bar. You're going to take a breath in, and as you breathe out, with that sense of a bar being behind the knees, let the feet find the mat again. And then just bringing one hand onto your belly button and one hand onto your heart. Let's take 3 conscious rounds of directional breath. So you're breathing from heart to navel center. And exhaling navel center to heart. Then we're just going to, my throat's gone now, and now we're just going to release into Shavasana from there. Excuse me. So releasing into Shavasana. Just letting the body settle into the support of the earth. you might continue resting. Otherwise, just beginning now to deepen into your breath. And just bringing movement back to fingers and to toes. Maybe you want to stretch your body. Yawn or sigh before gathering your knees to your chest and rolling to one side of the body or another. Oh, then bringing yourself all the way up to sit. Hands together in front of the heart. Pausing again, eyes closed, just to notice how you're feeling. And then just bowing your head to your heart. May all beings be free from their suffering and the causes of their suffering. Opening your eyes. Namaste. Thank you, all of you. Hope that was helpful in some way.